Welcome to the podcast hosted by timecamp.com on how to stay on top of your work.
So hello guys, this is Kate and I'm back with another episode of the podcast Stay on Top of your work. And today my guest is Maura Nevel Thomas, and she is an award-winning international speaker and trainer on individual and corporate productivity and work-life balance, and the most widely cited authority on attention management, on which we are going to talk about. She is a TEDx speaker, founder of Regain Your Time, and author of Personal Productivity Secrets and Work Without Walls. She was recently named a top leadership speaker for 2018 in E&C magazine, and she's a frequent expert and regular contributor to major business outlets, including Fast Company, Huffington Post, and the Harvard Business Review. You can follow her on Twitter at @MNThomas, but don't worry, you'll find all the info about Maura below this podcast, so make sure to check it out. Hi, Maura. I'm very happy to have you here today.
Hi, Kate. Happy to be here.
So I have to say that this episode is actually quite challenging because as TimeCamp, we produce a time tracking software, which is also concerned with time management. And you say that time management doesn't work. So I'd like to ask you, why do you think it doesn't work? Or maybe why do we need something more except simple time management?
Sure. Well, time management used to work very well. I mean, time management is mainly considered as TimeCamp, right? With a calendar and a clock. And of course, sometimes you need to track your hours and you need to effectively manage your time in order to count your hours to bill your clients or, to track how you spend your time. But we need way more than just a calendar and a clock, because it used to be that you could, back in the days before the internet, you could go into your office because everybody had an office, and you could close your door because everybody had a door. and the only thing on your desk was the phone. And, maybe there was a typewriter way back in the day. Maybe after that, there was a dumb terminal or a computer. But in the days before the internet, it was very easy to control your technology. But now, not only do we have so many interruptions by technology, right? But we also, the technology and the internet has created in ourselves this understanding that we will be distracted every few minutes. And so even when we're not distracted by an incoming email or a text message or a chat request or the phone ringing, even when those things don't happen, we expect them. If too long goes by without some sort of sound or distraction, we start to wonder in our head, how come nobody's contacting me? Oh, I better check my messages. I must have missed some things. And so it's created this environment where we are constantly distracted. And the more we are constantly distracted, the more we get constantly distracted. And so time management advice will say, if it's really important, put it on your calendar and then it will definitely get done. Well, that just doesn't work anymore with all of the distractions we have. So we need, certainly there's still some sound advice that we would put under the heading of time management. We need way more than that to deal with the 21st century technology and distractions. And the way that I put that is attention management.
Okay, that sounds actually pretty good. So why did you actually decide to help people in organizing their work?
Yeah, I have been in the productivity business really for my entire professional career. Right out of college, I started working for a company that sold paper-based planners. And I worked there for almost a decade. And my last role there was director of marketing. And as director of marketing, I needed to understand the whole field of productivity and what everyone was teaching and all the products and all the methodologies. And so I went to every class and I read every book and I saw every speaker. And so then when I left that company and started my business, I was able to take the best of what I had learned and roll it up into the methodology that I teach now, which I call the Empowered Productivity System.
Okay. I'd like to go back to attention management. Can you explain a little bit what exactly is attention management?
Yeah, absolutely. Attention management is the ability to manage your distractions, to engage your flow, to be present in your moments, and really to unleash your genius. Because when we are constantly distracted, it makes it difficult for us to really engage our true brain power. And we're multitasking and we're giving everything just a little bit of our attention, and we're scattered and we're fractured and frazzled. And so that means that it undermines our ability to learn, our ability to really be present, to really engage the best of our wisdom and our knowledge and our experience. So attention management is really more than just the ability to focus. It's the ability to control your attention so that you choose where your attention goes. It's about being more proactive and less reactive, more thoughtfully responsive and less reactive. It's really the continual ability to manage your attention in any moment.
Okay, so I'm thinking about work management, organizing your work in general, and productivity. How do you use what you just said to make our work more productive and to avoid all these distractions?
Sure. So there's really three initial steps to attention management. Attention management is a practice that we that we can work on really for the rest of our lives. And sometimes we'll be good at it and sometimes we won't be so good at it, but it's okay. So 3 steps to attention management really are, first, you have to control your environment. So we often behave as if we are at the mercy of our environment. Oh, everybody keeps distracting me. It's so loud in here. I can't get anything done. Well, really, you can put up some boundaries and, give your coworkers the message that you would prefer not to be disturbed. And really, you have to telegraph that message, because otherwise, once they say, hey, do you have a minute? You're already distracted, right? So you want to put up a sign, or maybe put on headphones, or close your door if you have one, or take your work and go to a quiet location. But if you put up some boundaries and then you respect the boundaries, your coworkers will as well. So controlling your environment is the first step. The second step is controlling your technology. So again, we behave as if we are slaves to our technology. Oh, the phone and the text messages and the chats and the push notifications and all these things are always happening and I can never concentrate. Well, every piece of technology that we own has an off button, right? Even if we don't turn it off, we could put it on silent, not vibrate. We could use do not disturb features. There's lots of software that you can engage that will lock out certain distracting websites and things like that. So I understand that we can't put ourselves in that little bubble for 8 hours every day, but you could do it for 15 or 20 minutes every hour, or for an hour or 90 minutes in the morning and then again in the afternoon. I mean, the frequency and the duration are really up to you, but the point is you can control your technology during different intervals so that you can get your work done. So that's the second step.
Okay, keep going.
And then the last step is really controlling our own behavior. And that's the hardest part. It's about controlling our thoughts. It's about controlling our own tendency to be distracted. And really, our environments chip away at our attention span because we're we're so distracted all the time, but we can reset that. We can practice focusing. We can build up our focus muscle so that instead of chipping away at our attention span, we're actually building up our attention span so that we learn to have more control over our own internal distractions. And lots of ways mindfulness and meditation practices can help you to have more control over your thoughts. So those are the 3 steps for attention management.
Okay, and you mentioned technology, and I think technology is such a huge part of our work and also life, but work in particular, that sometimes it's really hard to actually, withdraw from technology and all these distractions. Do you think that the use of special tools is actually useful in that, or maybe not really?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, as much as technology is sometimes the problem, oftentimes it's also the solution, right? So there are lots of technology solutions that help us to focus on our work and not be distracted and do one thing at a time so that we can do that one thing faster and better and then move on to something else, move on to checking our messages or, the next task at hand. But definitely, technology is the solution as much as it can be the problem.
So, as an expert on productivity, can you give us maybe some examples of tools that you use in your work?
Oh, sure. So I find myself that I don't need necessarily to engage some of those tools that lock you out of different websites and different programs on your computer, but there are many of those. Flipped is one, and Rescue Time is one. I think, to me, the most important tools are the tools that we need to get our work done. And for me, that's primarily a task list tool, because that's one of the things that distracts us in our mind, is that most people are running down their to-do list in their head all day, trying not to forget everything because they've got lists on paper and sticky notes and flags in their email and things on their whiteboard, and they're very scattered, and so they're thinking all day long about, I have to do that, and don't forget to do that, and don't forget to do that, and I got to do that, and I got to do that, and I got to do that, and that is very distracting. So if you have not only a great task list tool, but also the methodology to use it, then it can help you to stay focused on the task at hand. So that's the most important tool to me.
Okay. I also use a task list tool, and I have to say it's a great tool, and it saves a lot of my energy and helps me stay focused. So I'd like to ask you maybe some of the challenges of work in terms of attention management. Maybe there are things like stress, burnout, lack of motivation. How can we solve these problems with attention management, but also to keep the work-life balance, which is so important in our daily life?
Yeah, it's we're so used to constantly checking in on all of our messages while we're at work. Constantly checking our email, or most people just leave their email open and downloading all day long. And so a new message is coming in every 30 seconds or 1 minute or 2 minutes. There's always a new message coming in, and we're always called away. Oh, what's that message? Oh, what's that message? Oh, what's that message? And so then when we get used to that, and so then when we're not at work, that's a habit that we've created all day, every day while we're working. And so it's very difficult to stop that behavior just because we've walked out the office door, or because it's 5 o'clock and we've left our home office and gone into our kitchen or whatever. You still feel that tendency, oh, I better check my messages, I better check my messages. And since we always have a device with us where we can get our messages, we find ourselves just checking them all the time. And I don't think it's because we're required to. I don't think it's because necessarily we even need to. I think we do it just really out of habit. And so we check our messages while we're having dinner, while we're watching TV with our family, while we're out at a restaurant, while we're, driving in the car. Well, like at every moment, we still have that urge to say, oh, I better check my messages, better check my messages, better check my messages. And so it makes us unable to, it creates no boundaries between work and personal life. And it reinforces that idea of chipping away at our attention span where we can never be present in our personal lives.
Mm-hmm. So I guess we should sometimes take a break from our mobile phone and just, spend time with friends, family, and forget about the work maybe.
Absolutely. And there are ways, I mean, it's difficult. I know even when I go on vacation, I need my phone for the map and the driving directions and maybe the restaurant reviews and music and podcasts and all of those things. And so because our phones bring us not only our business information, but also our recreational information and all other tools we use, the calculator, the flashlight, it's really difficult to say, well, I'm only going to use the recreational apps and the tools, and I'm not going to check that, push that email button. But there are ways that we can get around that. Like on the iPhone, for example, it's very easy to temporarily disable your an email account, so that even if you push that icon without catching yourself, the email's not there. And then you go, oh, that's right, I didn't want to check it, right? And then when you're ready to go back to it, it's very easy to just turn it back on again.
Yeah, that's true. So I'd like to go back to attention management and productivity in terms of team management. How to empower people on the team with the use of attention management.
Yeah. Well, what I have found, and it's actually the central theme of my latest book, which is Work Without Walls. What I have found is that sometimes the biggest impediment to the team's productivity is the boss and the behaviors of the boss. Because the boss is subject, just like the rest of us, the boss is subject to all of the distractions and all of the bad habits. And the boss is always checking email too. And so, but the boss's behavior has a magnified impact on the team. So, for example, I wrote an article for Harvard Business Review called "Your Late Night Emails Are Hurting Your Team." And it's, if the boss is sending emails at 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock, 12 o'clock in the evenings and on weekends, then the team is going to feel like they need to be checking their emails, even if that's not the intention of the leader. And in fact, I work with leaders all the time, and most of them tell me, oh my gosh, I didn't mean for them to check their messages at night. It's just, when I had a minute, I was thinking about it. So, so the leaders need to make sure that they are supporting the attention management of their team. Don't be always dropping in, asking people, hey, can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? Respect when they're trying to get their work done. Don't send emails after hours or on weekends. If sometimes work needs to be done after hours or on weekends, but a better thing to do when that happens is to use the phone, because then people know, like, oh, it's the phone, it must be important. So those are a few things.
Okay. So I'd like to ask you about mistakes people do at managing their team, but also at managing their work. Do you have any particular examples, maybe from your own work with people, of the most common mistakes?
Yeah. I mean, the most common mistakes are these habits that I've been talking about, trying to do multiple things at a time, opening that document or that spreadsheet because you have to get that important task done, but also having your email open and downloading at the same time. And so task switching all the time. Okay, where was I on that report? Oh, look, a new email. Let me get that. Okay, no, back to that report. Where was I? That contributes to lots of mistakes, and it takes us longer to do everything when we're splitting our attention among multiple things. So multitasking and allowing distractions, not controlling your attention, to me is the biggest mistake that people make.
Do you maybe have any special tips for people who have problems with productivity?
Yes. Again, I think the most important tip is learn attention management and begin to practice it. It's something that we, some days we'll be pretty good at it and some days we'll be not so good at it, but that's okay. But the more that we recognize when our attention is being stolen and take steps to prevent it from being stolen so that we can focus on the things that are important to us, the more we will get our own important work done, and the more we'll be able to achieve the results that are significant to us, both personally and professionally.
Okay, so I'd like to switch now to the more creative part of the podcast, which is books, because you're the author of you're the author of 2 books, Personal Productivity Secrets and Work Without Walls. Can you tell us a little bit more about these books and why we should read them?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for asking. So Personal Productivity Secrets is for individuals looking to improve their own productivity. It identifies steps to attention management, what it is and how to practice it, but also the workflow management process that I have assembled and refined and that I teach, called the Empowered Productivity System. So a lot of people don't understand that workflow management is a thing. It's, there is a systematic way that we can approach managing all of the details of our lives. And I call it workflow, but really you could call it life flow, because it's not only our professional lives and our work that we have to manage, but there's also a lot of things we have to do to keep our lives running smoothly. We have all kinds of responsibilities. And so a process for managing all of the details of our lives is really important. And that's what Personal Productivity Secrets teaches people. And then Work Without Walls is about anyone who is a leader, anyone who has a team working for them. And it's about how to create a productive culture inside your organization so that your team can bring their best to their job every day.
Mm-hmm. And what exactly inspired you to write these books?
Well, I just felt like I had some wisdom that was beneficial to people, and how many people I could reach just, one at a time or even in groups was limited. And to be honest, the Wiley Publishing actually invited me to write my first book. And then and so I did that at their invitation. And then Personal Work Without Walls came about because I started working a lot with CEOs and senior leaders, and I realized how much information I had that could serve them if I just approached it from a different perspective, the perspective of, how to create a productive culture for your team. So that was the catalyst for the second book.
Okay, that sounds good. Are there any other books that inspire you in your work? Because I really like the topic of books. Everyone always has a different set of books. So what about you?
Yeah, I read a lot of books about focus and about controlling your attention and about how technology affects the brain. So some books that I really enjoyed, there's a book called Distracted by Maggie Jackson, a book called Wrapped by Winifred Gallagher. I really enjoy reading Daniel Goleman, who writes about focus and flow and emotional quotient EQ. Nicholas Carr has written some great books. Cal Newport wrote a book called Deep Work that's really useful. Oh, Edward Hallowell. His books Driven to Distraction and Crazy Busy, those have been very helpful. So that's mostly the kind of books I read.
Okay, so now my list of books is getting bigger and bigger. That's good. So thank you for the inspiration. And I have the final question to you, which is connected with the name of the podcast, Stay on Top of Your Work. And I think you kind of actually answered this question, but I am still going to ask you, how do you stay on top of your work?
Yeah, 2 ways really. Number 1 is practicing attention management. And number 2 is engaging a workflow management process that helps me keep all of the details of my life in a way that is makes it easy to manage all those details and make sure that nothing falls through the cracks. I believe that people have unique gifts to bring to the world, and I want to help them bring those gifts in a way that inspires and motivates them rather than exhausts and overwhelms them. So that's really the focus of my work.
Okay, that sounds good. Maura, thank you very much for the interview. It was my pleasure to talk to you.
Thank you so much, Kate, for having me. I look forward to hearing it.
Thank you very much. I hope you guys are now armed with the knowledge necessary in fighting the monsters of distraction, procrastination, and unproductivity. I am also hoping that you enjoyed this episode. If so, let me know in comments. Subscribe and stay tuned for more to always stay on top of your work.
This podcast was brought to you by TimeCam. You can listen to it on iTunes and SoundCloud. Subscribe to get more content and always stay on top of your work.